Yo everyone, it is the Kylo Ren channel and Congo is here and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about everyone's favourite villain, Kylo Ren. Yes, this channel is based off him. I'd like just to give a disclaimer right now. Kylo Ren is he's one of my favourite, he is probably my favourite character in the sequel trilogy. And I'll get into why he is in a sec. But yeah, I really like the idea of Kylo Ren, right? But as always, we go through the story, we go through all of the episodes and I just give my take on sort of what's happened, right? So yeah, as I was saying, Kylo Ren is definitely one of my favorite characters, probably my favorite character in the sequel trilogy, because the idea of Ben Solo is really nice. It is really nice because what you have here is a guy whose uncle, well not aunt, but his uncle, his dad, his mum, his granddad, his grandma, they are all heroes. They're all like tip-top heroes. And I was interested to see how Ben would deal with that, right? Like, how would this guy who maybe when he was born, maybe when he was growing up, wasn't as powerful as, say, even Leia, let's say. I mean, I say even Leia, but Leia is like one of the most powerful Force users in the whole sequel trilogy. So, like, he had big shoes to fill, basically. Yeah, he had big shoes to fill, and what comes with those shoes, like those massive shoes, comes a lot of pressure as well. And that is why I was very interested to see how Kylo Ren would end up. There was many possibilities, like in the trailer when you see Kylo Ren, and in the first 20 minutes of The Force Awakens when you see him against not against, but you see him talking, killing Lor San Tekka and them then. It's just really, he's very menacing. And I really like that. Kylo Ren in the first 20 minutes of The Force Awakens is really, really good. He's really, really menacing. He has similarities to Darth Vader. You could tell that he's been inspired by Vader, like with his costume and stuff like that. And his lightsaber is, the design, like the practical terms of design is a bit iffy, but it looks really good. I ain't gonna lie. The crossguard saber looks brilliant. So you've got this like sort of menacing guy. But what happens, and I will say this, in the first 20 minutes of The Force Awakens, the first 20 minutes of screen time that Kylo Ren has, I was like, this could be one of the better villains in the whole of Star Wars universe, really. Just because, as I said, the background that he has, the pressures that he has, it would be so easy to turn to the dark side. So you get as much power as your family, sort of thing. They could have put it as like the only way for him to sort of surpass his family would be to turn to the dark side, but obviously it didn't happen that way, right? So after his first 20 minutes of screen time, he essentially becomes just a punching bag for Rey. Yeah, so that's it. In The Force Awakens, I guess after the first 20 minutes, he has his inner sort of struggles, and it culminates with him killing Han Solo. He does get shot by Chewbacca after that, before the fight with Rey and Finn. So a lot of people were saying, like, when that movie first dropped and everyone saw it, a lot of people were like, oh, don't worry, he only lost against Rey because he had literally got a Wookiee blaster to the chest. To be honest, he didn't even die from that, so it just shows sort of how powerful he was, that he could still go toe to toe with both Rey and Finn in fights when he basically had a Wookiee blaster to the chest or gut or whatever. But of course, you get to the Last Jedi, and the same thing happens again. He gets, well, I guess does he fight Rey at all? I mean, he does. Yeah, he does. So, yeah, he gets bested by Rey again, and even Rey makes an easier sort of battle out of the Praetorian Guards than he does. He sort of struggles and gets saved by Rey near to the end of that fight, but he does save Rey, of course. And there is that. In The Last Jedi, basically, so at the end of The Force Awakens, should be probably better to say, talk about this first. At the end of The Force Awakens, Snoke basically says to Hux, okay, yeah, let's get Commander Ren here. Let's get him some training that he needs. After like realizing that he lost to Rey, right? The Last Jedi happens a day after The Force Awakens. So you just know that he hasn't had the training from Snoke, right? He hasn't had the training that Snoke mentioned. And that leads me to believe that JJ wanted a time skip, but that didn't happen. So I'm only going to go from what the story gave us, nothing else, okay? So he doesn't get his training from Snoke, and then obviously the next sort of part, The Last Jedi comes out, and he doesn't really have much progression because he is locked into this killing the past thing. but it's such a really weird take for him to have, because he lives in the past by keeping Darth Vader's mask, for instance. So he's so stuck in the past that he worships a relic of a past Sith Lord. But he comes to the conclusion about 2 days later, in movie time, 2 days later, he decides that he wants to kill the past, kill everyone in it, including the rebels and the resistance, or whatever they want to call themselves, and the alliance, the galactic alliance. So it just becomes a mess, because he's basically contradicted himself, and he just becomes this blubbering rage kid who just rages constantly all the time. Again, he doesn't even realize that Luke is Force Vision as well, which I think is a bit silly. Like, Kylo, you know Luke's Force powers, right? You've trained with him, so you should have that scent of when Luke is using the Force, and he just had no idea. You can put it down to rage, but for me, it just shows how dumb they've made Kylo. He's not like a calculated villain. He almost does things on emotion, and I really don't like that about Kylo Ren, to be honest. I really think they got that wrong in The Last Jedi. I think he should have had that time skip, and he should have been trained by Snoke. He should have matured, realizing, oh man, I was just so stupid back in The Force Awakens days, and now look at me now. I'm just this powerful. I'm ready to take over Vader's mantle. And The Last Jedi sort of just stopped his character progression and locked him into this, oh, he might get with Rey sort of scenario. And it's just like, the Force Skyping was just like, the Force typing was bad. The flashbacks that he had with Luke was very, I don't know, teenage, like rom-com-esque sort of thing. But yeah, he had every right. I guess if you woke up and your uncle, who was supposed to be like the hero of the galaxy, was standing over you with a lightsaber ready to cut you down, you're obviously going to bring the house down over his head. So I have no qualms with what he did there. Well, the biggest qualm is that Luke wouldn't have done that in the first place, but just seemed like a cheap way to get Kylo turned to the dark side. But it is what it is. I have no complaints about that. So yeah, let's go to the Rise of Skywalker, right? So based on the first two films, Kylo has basically already been destroyed as a villain. Because he's just been bested so many times by Rey. He's not credible. He's not credible as a villain anymore. And you can see that in the Rise of Skywalker, where he's basically changed now from not even changed. So he kills Snoke, right? He kills Snoke in The Last Jedi. He comes the next movie, he sees Palpatine straight away and just starts working for Palpatine straight away. His quote-unquote progression in The Last Jedi is completely gone, because he basically fixes his mask back up. He starts worshipping Darth Vader's mask again, you like properly. So all of this stuff about the past dying and stuff, he has gotten his past relics, and he is again worshipping them, right? And then you've got Palpatine, who comes back, right? And the first thing he does, he goes Palpatine says his mumbo jumbo, and then he just starts working with Palpatine again after he just killed his master, right? So he's not even following the Sith rule of two. He's just following his emotions. He kills Snoke, and then he's like, finds Palpatine. Palpatine says, oh yeah, my boy, I've been talking to you all this time. Which was actually a good line. I really like that line, Palpatine. Ah, my boy, I have been all the voices in your head. Like, I really like that bit. That was pretty cool. Maybe one of the only cool parts of the whole film. But yeah, so it just doesn't make no sense for Kylo to be following anyone again, to be led by someone again. He is Commander Ren at this point. He has killed his master. It's time for you to step up big. But he just doesn't do that in the Rise of Skywalker. He continues his Force Skyping. He says that he didn't lie about her parents when he did. Rey's parents, should I say, but I'll save that for Rey's video. And then, yeah, he gets Leia dying sort of brings Ben back to the light. But it would have been nice if he just would have killed Leia in the Last Jedi, and then he would have been brought back to the light that way. I think that would have been way more interesting. He would have had to have lived with the fact that he killed his mum before he saw the light. So yeah, I think the Last Jedi was really quick to sort of the Last Jedi, did I say? I mean, the Rise of Skywalker. It more tried to fix issues than give these characters a decent sort of send off and story arc. Also, if Rey can force heal, then Kylo Ren should be able to force heal. The only reason why Rey's about actually let's save the Rey stuff for the Rey video, alright? I'll keep this Kylo Ren. He shouldn't have passed away. I think Kylo Ren should have been one of the main characters in this film, and he was, but I think he should have, at the end, he should have either turned to the light. I think it would have been interesting if he didn't turn to the light but didn't die, but there you go. I mean, you don't actually have to make Kylo Ren turn to the light just to fight Palpatine. You really don't. He could fight Palpatine of his own. Like, he killed Snoke and he was still firmly in the dark side. So I just don't know. I don't know why it had to happen this way, but it did. And I think Kylo Ren was ruined from The Last Jedi. Basically, he didn't really have any sort of character arc in The Force Awakens anyway, but he had enough mystery about him that he could have been a really good character had he got that training that Snoke said he would have got in The Force Awakens, and it just never materialized that way because, as I said, there was no time skip between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It was almost instant. They're almost supposed to be side by side in terms of Force Awakens happened a couple of hours and then The Last Jedi. That's what it's supposed to be, and that's a shame, really, because, as I said, Kylo Ren is probably one of my favorite characters in the sequel trilogy. Probably my favorite character. I keep saying one of, but I don't actually have many other favorite characters. But yeah, I think that wraps up this one, and thanks for listening, guys. Anything that you want to say, add in the comments below, and I will see you next video. Peace.